mainly
to
to
another episode of Foggy Entrepreneur Connect, chilling with. If you don't know him and you're in mining, I don't know where you're living. That's like a legend. You know, we give him flower while he's still alive. I'll let him introduce himself so you get to know a lot about the gentleman I'm with. Say, how are you?
do well. How are you, man?
I'm great, great.
Very well, very
Please
well.
introduce yourself.
My name is Tebogo Kale. Hail from Sishego, and I'm from Gravitas Minerals.
Yeah.
The company that creates. We're a bunch of creators. We create proprietary technologies for the mining industry, and where the client has a need for a solution, we then create systems for them, so then it works mainly to integrate into their plants or for different commodities. That would be, I call it the ICCM or the essential minerals.
Yeah.
So that is your iron ore, chrome, coal, and manganese. So those are the minerals that we are primarily active in, and we are nicely now branching into battery minerals, as you can see, the agenda of renewables.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
Yeah. So before we get to the interesting stuff, where did it all start? When did you figure out, like, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think probably 15 years ago. My first business was I used to sell football shirts.
Yeah.
So most of the guys that I know in mining were actually my clients because they used to buy football shirts from me, not mineral processing equipment.
Yeah.
And so I would buy out football shirts from different teams and would sell them. So Chelsea, Spanish teams, sometimes all the way to take your Galatasarays and Besiktas. So I used to sell all those T-shirts, and yeah, from there it just moved. I went into retail, into jeans. Um, I've been
But
into.
was that before you completed your studies, or was during when you still
It
studied
was side
meteorology?
hustle. It was side
Side
hustles.
hustles.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was working, and it was side hustles. It was mainly businesses I used to do on weekends.
Yeah.
Of course, from time to time you'd get a call. Hey, please make sure Saturday you bring me this shirt. We're having a party.
Yeah.
So I would have that, and then I moved into food. I had a food franchise. I then went into tax. Got into taxation and accounting, and I got to learn a lot from that. And now we also had the franchise is actually still operational today. And at a point, a lot of people don't know this, but I was actually a BEE verification agent.
Yeah.
And that was through the tax franchise. And then, with time as I was working, I kind of realized that the best place where I could really show my entrepreneurial skills isn't what I do every day, and isn't what I'm good at. And I've been in this industry for 20 years. So it's something I know very well. I at a point chose my niche that I want to specialize in fines, and I decided that's where I want to go.
Yeah. Hectic. But then when you're going through all those side hustles, were you having an edge to say I don't want to do a 9 to 5, or prior to you realizing that you can actually just bring it back to mining?
I'll be honest, it was just an urge about doing something different, an urge about starting something from scratch and really building. One of my passions today is still building. I like building. It's seldom that I will buy a house. I'd rather buy land and build. I enjoy seeing things come together.
Yeah.
Things unfold into what the vision was. So that was really the push than a money thing. It was more, how do I just bring things to life?
Yeah, no,
I
true.
enjoy that.
I think a lot of people are driven by results and they forget the process. If
Yes.
you love the process, you're always gonna achieve whatever you want to put your mind to.
True.
In terms of the pain for most entrepreneurs is always capital. When you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, how did you manage to, even let's take it back to selling football shirts and stuff. How did you manage to like raise capital to make sure that you invest in your business? You have a significant cash flow.
Okay, let's go back to the football part. So the story behind that is actually quite funny because So we used to get paid salaries on the 25th. Yeah. So on the 25th, so the first thing I did was to make sure that I move all my debit orders to the 7th. So from the 25th to the 7th, I've got more than 10 days.
Yeah.
So when we get paid, I'll make sure I get all my stock with my entire salary, and the salary and the stock comes in. Before the 7th, I must make sure that I've made all the money back so that the debit orders can go through. So it was self-funded. So uh, from very early in my journey, I got to appreciate the idea of self-funding, and that means you gotta cut a whole lot of things in your life um, to kind of fund that process and fund that growth, because growth is money. When you grow, it costs you money.
Yeah.
It's a fact of life. So throughout my career, my journey, everything I've done was self-funded. So the tax franchises and things, when you got paid bonuses, and people went and spend their bonuses with nice things, I spend my bonus buying franchises and investing. So there is that culture of investing that you just kind of build within yourself, where you know that if I make the right decision today, that decision might buy me 5 years in the
Yeah.
next 8 to 10 years
Yeah.
uh, of 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 relaxed time or of income. So it's that decision making.
No, interesting how you approached it, because I mean, a lot of us, we just got paid and then spend the money without thinking of the future. But what's your take on capital?
I think um, what I always argue with people is that we always think we need capital, but I also argue that I think we need the client, because normally when you need the capital to build
Service.
or to service the client. So you would then argue and say, okay, but I need capital to build a factory. To do what with the factory? To
Yeah.
produce a product. For which client? And then there's no client. So ultimately, it always needs to start with the client, and that's why most of us struggle to get to even get capital,
Yeah.
because there's no client, there's no contract. Yeah. But what I think is important in the context of South African business is seed capital. The money you need to spend until you land your first client. And you don't get a lot of seed funding in South Africa.
Very true.
It's very, very difficult. Having said all of that, I also think we need to remove the stigma around the government, that the government takes too long. The government are never, there are actually very good people in government that are willing to help. And we are working with a couple of people, and the government is willing to help. Yeah, sometimes it takes long, but we gotta be willing to walk the mile. If we throw our hands in the air, we are now saying we don't want the government to be responsible and do what they're supposed to be doing, because we're saying they are useless, but we actually need to give them a chance. So I think if there's something that I would say to anyone, would be that until you have walked that journey and you have not won, don't listen to somebody else. Go at it yourself.
Very important. Don't let people project their fears on you. You know,
Yeah,
what they can do doesn't mean that you can't do it.
true,
That's very true.
true.
What I know you've been through so many things in entrepreneurship. If you had to choose one advice to give to your younger self, what would that advice be?
Um, I think it's growth. It's growth and process. So I would advise my younger self that throughout the process you work so hard, and there's a point where you hit a milestone, and you feel like, okay, now things are looking up. And if I were to advise my younger self, I'd say when things are looking up, that is actually the time where you actually have to work harder. It's not the time to chill and enjoy your money as people think.
Yeah.
So you gotta think harder, you gotta work harder. Maybe you gotta forego a bit of the mundane work and do better thinking, use your money wiser. But if I were to look at my journey, you get to points where things are starting to look up, you make a bit of money, and you tend to now relax. So whatever effort you put in today, it's gonna pay off in a year or two or whatever time, yeah? And the effort that you don't make, it's also going to show in the exactly. So when things are looking up and you don't pay attention and you don't put in effort, it is going to show sooner or later. So that's one thing. So consistency in this is the most difficult thing to do, but it's the most important thing to do.
Yeah. What's your take on marketing? How do you market? Because we know mining is notorious for being a niche. How do you market your products and services in the mining space?
For us, we say we don't want to be everything to everyone. What we want to do with every single person we interact with, we want to add value to their, we want to create value actually, because we're in a space where most of our clients don't even know that they need what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how we market, it's we market through targeting. We've got a set specific a set of clients, and we go after those clients. We target them. We have one-on-one and one-on-ones, and as a result, you also see that even from an organizational structure perspective, we tend to target a certain level of people that we have discussions with, and value creation discussions. The big thing though is in everything we do, we co-create. So we work with our clients because all our clients know what the solution is. So all we do is
I
we,
get what you say.
yeah, all we do is we come in and we work with them to create that solution.
Yeah.
That's all we do, and then we define what the value is in that solution.
What has been some of your biggest challenges through your journey?
Hmm.
Maybe a lot, but
I think it's exhaustion. You get exhausted. So when you run the business, there's quite a couple of legs that you carry. To start with, you're responsible for marketing, you're responsible for sales, you're responsible for operations, you're responsible for finance. And in our case, we then also have to do R&D, lots of R&D, because we did not have a product. So that on its own is a very difficult function because it exhausts you financially. When you're doing R&D, you're burning cash and you're not making that cash
no
back.
guarantee of return.
Yeah, no guarantee of return. In addition to that, it was not just R&D, but it was also making sure our technology is proprietary. So there's patenting, there's IP that you gotta work around. So financially it just exhausts you. You get tired financially, you're working tirelessly, and you don't see anything coming into your bank account month end. It's very difficult, and I think that has been the single biggest challenge. If you do it for 3 months, 5 months, great. But in my view, a gestation period, a fair gestation period in the mining industry, especially in what we do, easy 18 months. That means you gotta wake up every day for 18 months, burn cash, work very hard, and not get paid a single cent. That's very difficult. So it has been the single biggest challenge, the energy and the finance that goes into it constantly, that you gotta keep putting in relentlessly.
Yeah.
Until it pays off, of course.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that entrepreneurship requires a very strong mindset, and
Yeah.
if you don't exercise your mind,
Yeah.
it might consume you. And forgiveness is very important. It's a lonely place. You don't
Yeah.
really have a lot of people that understand you. So how do you deal with that?
I do a lot of character building, and I've learned to work on myself. Um, when I was still a big gamer, I used to call it breaking your own high score. You have your highest score, and you just keep breaking that high score. So throughout my career, I've been like, actually, this started in varsity. When you write your exams,
Yeah.
or your tests, and when you get your scripts back, everybody wants to know who got how much. I don't care about that. If I made my targets that this is what I want to get in my exam or in my test, if that was a 52% and I got a 54%, I'm all right. If you got a 90, that's on you. It ain't got nothing to do with me, yeah? So I've always set goals for myself that are attainable, and I make sure I break that, because that on its own becomes a motivator. And motivation is what fuels you. But motivation for me comes more out of achieving. And that's why I get to appreciate going through the process, because that process has so many milestones that every time I achieve one, it just becomes the next fuel for the next milestone. So I'll just keep going.
So, do you believe in coaching and mentorship? If so, do you have or are you coaching anybody?
I believe in it. I think it is important. Throughout my career, I never had um, a formal coach or a mentor. But what I made a personal goal at the time was to learn by observation. So I observe and I learn from people. One, you don't have to like a person to learn from them.
Yep.
No. I believe everybody has
Or to even make business with them?
to even do business with them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think from that, I've observed my bosses, I've observed my bosses' bosses, and I've seen how they do things, and I've learned from that. So you look at it and you decipher. You take the stuff that you like,
Yeah.
or the stuff that you can learn from. So I've learned from many people indirectly. So as a reason, I never had a coach. Do I think it's important? Absolutely. If I were to get it, if I were to have that opportunity, I would love to have a coach.
Yeah.
I do have an informal coach now,
Yeah.
and that is by means of podcasting. There are certain podcasts that I listen to that really build me up,
Yeah.
and for now it works for me.
I think for anybody in mining who's looking for a mentor, but you better be hardworking because I know it'll drive you crazy. Yes, Mr. Kale, please hit him up. So where do people find you? If they want to stay in touch, they want to do business with Gravitas, they come to see the showroom and get to see some of the plans that you built because I know that you've been busy. That's quite a lot of projects last year.
We in Benoni, in Joburg. My preferred platform is LinkedIn, because it works. And it's fair enough. We all busy and we work, but if one wants to hit us up, LinkedIn, or come to see our works in Benoni and
Yeah.
see the proprietary technology that we build and how it all comes together, it's a very exciting place to be.
And lastly, before I let you go, if there's any books that you'd like to recommend, like 2 or 3 books, entrepreneurship books that build you up, that you think can add value, any book that comes to mind?
Yeah, a few. Firstly, let me put a disclaimer out there. I'm a terrible reader, so I don't read a lot of
Yeah.
books. I pretty much read one book ever since I was one small boy. All I've had to do was repeat it, because the amount of wisdom that comes out of that book is enormous.
Yeah.
A lot of people would underplay it, and I still think it's the greatest yet underrated book, especially in our society today. I would think you probably have figured it out by now.
Yeah, of course. I don't want to take a guess, but I think I know where this is going. Probably the Bible.
Yeah, so I read the Bible. I read the Bible a lot. Of course, there are books like Sweat, Scale, and Sell by Pavlo, and there are books. But all these books that I see, for me, they're just supplementary. There is one main man and one main book, and for me, that book is the Bible. People can say what they want to say. It is the greatest book. It is the book. It is the greatest book, because there is no answer or no amount of wisdom that you're going to find in any other book that is not in the Bible. I listen a lot to podcasts. So
maybe recommend a podcast that add value to you.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would say it on air. So.
Okay, that's fine.
But I would as a start, I think for entrepreneurs, give the VT podcast shout out. I think it's a pretty good podcast. I think it's very practical. There's no wishy-washy stories there, and that's the kind of things that I like. It's real life stuff, and other podcasts or videos that I would recommend is a guy called Christo Vise. Christo Vise built ShopRite, he built Pepcore. He runs business on principle. Absolutely brilliant guy to watch. So I follow him a lot, and I really warm up to that guy. Yeah.
Mr. Kale, thank you very much for taking time. Appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man. I had to hijack you from in the middle of your meetings. But thank you for making time, my brother.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you for meeting up.